In today's video, I'm sharing my process for drawing autumn leaves like oak, maple, and many more. So grab a pen and join me. Welcome back, friends. Welcome to the studio. My name is Shayda, and today we're going to draw some autumn leaves together. We do a lot of botanical illustration on this channel. It's one of my favorite things, and it's great for beginners if you're just starting out. Great for any skill level, really. And right now it is autumn in Canada. It's a beautiful time of year. It's crisp and cold, and there's falling leaves everywhere. And it really is the time of year when you sort of look around and really see the leaves. So today we're going to draw oak leaves and maple leaves and all kinds of stuff. If you need a little extra help, a little more step-by-step photo content, I will be releasing a worksheet on my Patreon site. Patreon is where I give all my bonus content. There's stuff every weekend and like worksheets, and it starts at just $2 a month. $2 to join and $2 a month after that. So it's pretty cheap and we give a lot of content. Okay, with that said, let's get into our illustration tutorial. Our supplies today are really straightforward. Grab a good fine liner pen, a pencil, of course some paper. I'm actually working on watercolor paper, and you'll need a good eraser, a nice soft eraser. Remember, I link all the supplies in the description, and you can now also go to my blog for supply links and still photos of the artwork. So for the oak leaf, our first one, you're going to do a line for center and do this feather shape around that line. The feather shape will act as your guide, and then we're going to do these funny little indents, and that's how the oak leaf comes together. Just work that guide and indent all the way around. Then you can add some little veining, and it's that simple. I'll also put some little acorns here because of course oak trees have acorns. Do 2 ovals and then just do a little curving line through the top of the oval, and that's how you draw the cap. We'll go over this with our fine liner. I'm actually using the 08 Pigma Micron, so using a larger nib pen today, just because I want to create a really graphic drawing that I could maybe add some color to later on if I chose to. So I'm just carefully going around my pencil drawing, and I might wiggle the pen a little. We never want our leaves or acorns or whatever to look too smooth or too perfect. That will just make them look kind of weird. So don't be afraid to shake the pen, or if you make a mistake, just go with it. Next up, we're going to draw a maple leaf. Now this might seem complicated, but again, we start with a guide, a centered line, then 2 small ovals, and then 3 larger oval shapes up top. So you can see how I'm kind of working it out here. And once the guide is in place, still working in pencil, we're going to give each oval section a couple little points. So add some more points to the ones up top. The ones at the bottom could just be 2 or 3. And that's how we draw this maple leaf. Once you get rid of some of those messy lines, you can add a bit of veining in the center, but you don't even have to do that. So this one is all about starting with that guide. Most of my illustrations on the channel, we begin with the form. It's really hard to just sit down and draw something out of nowhere. So setting yourself up with a guide is a huge part of the illustration process. I'm just going over everything in fine liner, adding these nice veining lines. They don't quite meet in the center, and I think that gives a nice natural look, and that is my maple leaf. Our next leaf is something a little bit more simple. We're going to start with that center line and then draw a heart shape surrounding the center line. It can be upside down or right side up, it's not important. And then here's what's fun, still working in pencil, we're going to add this toothy or spiky edge. So you're just going around and doing these close little indents. And then we're also going to add some close veining. So I find it easier to do one side, then the other. Do it all in pencil, and then I'm going to go over it with fine liner. When you're drawing the teeth, I found anyway that it was kind of easier to flip the page upside down. It was just, that's what felt natural for me, but do whatever works for you. Nothing wrong with moving the page around to make it easiest for you to draw something. And then again, I just do the lines on one side first and then the other. Trying to go from left to right and back again can can be a little hard to make them look even and uniform. So just do one side and then the other with those tiny little veining lines. Our next leaf is a fern, something like a cinnamon fern. We're starting with the curving line for the center, and then I draw these tiny little leaves up top, and they get larger as I move down the stem, and then eventually they become more than one leaf. So I draw a little branch, and that branch might have 3 leaves on it, or it might have 5 leaves on it. And you can see how by following this formula, you can keep going down that stem, adding little branches that get a little bit longer each time. And each time there's more and more tiny little leaves. All the leaves are just little ovals or circles, and you can make it as large as you like. So let's go over it in fine liner. It looks really intricate when it's done, but it's actually quite simple to draw. And when you start with a pencil illustration first, it's super easy to do. Now, one thing I want to point out is that when I go over the illustration of the fern in fine liner, I'm making all those tiny little leaves into one large long leaf. So whereas in pencil I did a line for the branch and then all these little circles and ovals, here I'm tracing around the outline of those ovals to make one big fern leaf. I hope you can see that. I think it's a neat way to draw this, and it makes it look really pretty. And the illustration, as I said, looks really intricate, but it's not hard to draw. Okay, I saved the easiest one for last. Again, you're starting with that center line. I did a gently curving line, and then you can add all these pairs of oval-shaped leaves. If you want, just place a line for the center of the leaf before you draw it, and before you know it, you're tracing over everything in fine liner. Remember to wiggle the pen a little bit so the ovals or the leaves don't look too smooth and too perfect. You can put kind of a curving, messy line down the center of each leaf, and you can even add a little bit of line shading on each side of that center vein. That's a super simple one, but it always looks good. And I decided my fall illustration wouldn't be complete without maybe just a few little berries. I love drawing and painting berries. So a cluster of circles joined with a couple stems. That's all there is to it. Go over it in fine liner. Make sure some of those little berries overlap for a nice natural look. And that's that. I'm going to erase all of my messy pencil lines. I like to use a large mop brush. I'll just show you that. It's from the dollar store. It's just a great way, instead of blowing on your artwork and potentially spitting on it, you can get rid of all the eraser dust with a clean paintbrush. You might have noticed I added a few little leaves to my berries, and then basically at this point, now that all that pencil is gone, I can see, do I want to add a little something else? Maybe I decided to do like a double line on the oak leaves. I just thought that added a nice element. You can place a little more line shading on the acorns or on the heart-shaped leaf, but yeah, that's about it. It's that simple. I had a lot of fun illustrating these. Start with that pencil guide and go over everything in fine liner. Then at this point, if you want to, you could add a little bit of color. Now you could add color with chalk pastel, colored pencils, crayons, or of course watercolors if you did your drawing on proper watercolor paper. And that's what I did. I was drawing in my little Strathmore watercolor sketchbook. Remember, you can go to the blog and see all the supplies that I used and get links to a proper art store. But I thought it would just be fun. Let's add a bit of messy color. I mean, these illustrations, they're very graphic. You know, they're big black lines. We haven't left anything to the imagination. So now when I add the color, I can kind of get graphic with it. I'm leaving a lot of negative space. I'm kind of being messy. I'm having fun and doing something a little different and illustrative because the forms are already there. Like, these look like leaves. We don't need to add a lot of detail with the paint. In fact, we can be quite messy, and that's exactly what I'm doing for the fern, is just adding like this splash of beautiful golden yellow on top of it, or it almost looks like it's behind it, because the Pigmamicron comes through really beautifully. And remember, Pigmamicrons are waterproof, so if you work with them, you can add color on top, and I think that looks so pretty. And of course, if you prefer, you can always just leave it at the black and white. Let me know in the comments, what did you prefer, color or just classic black and white? Remember to get the worksheet on Patreon. All the bonus content starts at $2 a month, and I will see you soon with a new tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe.